I'm in a room of people who have no idea what the concept of pay yourself first means. I'm in a room of people who live by cash. I'm in a room of people who were taught credit cards are bad. I'm in a room of people who have no clue as to how to leverage their home to be able to put themselves in a position to be able to generate wealth. Who's benefiting from us behaving this way? Just take a random example. Again, this came off my feed. It was a random example within a Dave Ramsey community. I blacked out the person's picture and the name because none of that matters. It's really what's the objective here? And the post is about getting a 15-year mortgage compared to paying off a 30-year mortgage in 15 years. So without me even knowing this person, what's the goal? The goal is, hey, I've got a certain monthly payment that I'm making on a home that's worth 275,000. What if I paid off the mortgage in 15 years? How much interest would I save? And in addition, versus one of the other strategies that I'm seeing a lot going on at the moment, and that is keeping your 30-year mortgage but paying it off in 15 years. So ultimately, the goal is to at some point stop paying as much interest as possible to the bank. So I want to pay my home off early to reduce the amount of interest that I'm paying. But then what do you do after that? And as it kind of went on in the comments, the goal from there is once I pay off my home, I want to now start focusing on generating wealth. I have no idea how old this person is. I'm going to give them an age of 30. So 30 years old, I want to pay off my home in 15 years, and she's comparing two different scenarios: getting a 15-year mortgage versus keeping your 30-year mortgage and paying it off in 15 years. So again, paying off the home in 15 years. I'm 30 years old. That means by age 45, and at age 45, I'm going to start putting the extra money into a vehicle to start producing income. And so, what I just wanted to highlight is in doing so, if there was a 15-year mortgage, the total principal paid was about 219,000 and the total interest paid was about 120, compared to if she would have just kept the 15-year mortgage and paid it off in 15 years. She's saying, hey, I'm going to put away 1534 plus an extra $510 a month, which means I would have paid a total principal of 220, total interest paid of 144. So when you do that math, what you learn is if she would have just gotten the 15-year mortgage, she would have saved, she would have prevented from paying about $25,000 in interest by just doing that. In essence, what she's saying is, hey, I want to do this. I've got this $275,000 mortgage that I want to pay off in 15 years. Whether I do it using the 30-year mortgage in 15 years or converting to a 15-year mortgage. And so what I wanted to highlight was, well, what would that income look like if at the end of that 15 years, they took this $1,899 and put it to work from this point forward to accomplish the goal, or kept the 30-year mortgage, paid off the 30-year mortgage in 15, as they stated, meaning putting the $1,500 a month, which is the normal mortgage payment, plus that extra $510, take these $2 amounts, put them to work, then at the end of that 15-year period, then getting your money compounded. Meaning, what's the income difference between these two actions is the piece that I wanted to kind of highlight in today's example. My example, though, is, and we'll go through all of these. My example, though, is what if instead we just keep the 30-year mortgage, which means we're going to pay more in interest, but we're going to take that 1534, again, continue to pay, and whatever I would have paid on that 30-year, take this 335 and put it to work, or maybe not even take that 335. Take that extra $510 a month, take the extra $510 a month and put it to work. Ultimately, there's four scenarios we're going to look at. I first want to pull up the mortgage calculator. And the reason I want to pull up the mortgage calculator is because I want to take a look at if we just kept the 30-year mortgage, how much interest would we pay? Again, we're talking about a $275,000 mortgage. They put $55,000 down as a down payment. The interest rate is 7.473%. And come over here. And so in essence, Over that 30 years, total interest would be about $332,000 in total interest is what would have been paid if they kept that mortgage. Total out of pocket expense about 552,000. Significant. I mean significant compared to some of the other values. But here's my argument. Pay attention to these numbers because sometimes we get wrapped up in, do I want the bank to have this interest? Meaning, do I want to pay this money to the bank? My challenge is, would you give the bank $1 if you could make 20? Would you give the bank $5 if you could make 15? Meaning, if we focus more on how much we are able to build within this vehicle versus what's happening elsewhere, would that honestly make a difference? So that's the question I want answered as we go through this. If we were to just do a 30-year mortgage alone, let it play its way out, we would have paid $552,000 for this home. In interest, total in interest would be about $332,000. Significant. But what does that look like if we were to take that same 30-year mortgage, pay it off in 15 years? And we have those numbers as well. But what I wanted to highlight is, instead of paying $332,000 in total interest, what would that interest be? How much interest is actually saved between these 2 points? Meaning, if I pay off that 30-year mortgage in 15 years, how much interest is actually saved? Interest on that 30-year mortgage being paid off in 15, the total interest paid is $144,932. So what I'm doing is just doing the math between what is that 332 minus the 144,932. They would have saved 187,000 if they would have just simply taken that 30-year mortgage and paid it off in 15 years using this process, which is significant. So for this one, it's that 332 minus 120. So we're talking 212. So again, significant. What is the interest saved if I was to get a 15-year mortgage instead of a 30-year mortgage? I'm saving 212,000. If I keep my 30-year mortgage, pay it off in 15, I'm saving 187,000. Like, it's significant. But my argument is, okay, if you wait till after you pay off your mortgage and then start putting that money that you're no longer spending towards a secure compound interest account, what does that look like? For this first scenario is, I am no longer putting in $18.99 into this home because it's now paid off. I'm 30 years old when I started. 15 years later, I'm now 45. So from 45 to age 60, I am no longer putting in this $18.99. What does this math look like as it relates to income? So from an income perspective, we're talking about 74,000, 75, let's call it 75,000 annually in income is what you're able to achieve by age 60. And from a cash value perspective, we're talking about 645,000. So 75,000 and 645. Now, what does this look like if we were to pay off that 30-year mortgage in 15? So what that means is we're going to take the I'm going to do this two different ways. We're going to take the 1534 that we're no longer paying, 1534 that we're no longer paying, put it in a secure compound interest account for the next 15 years. That income equates to $60,000 plus 512,000 in cash value. So 6,000, 60,000 and 512. So I also want to highlight one other piece. If you remember the 30-year mortgage, paying it off in 15 years, there's an additional dollar amount that was added to the 30-year mortgage to be able to do so. It was $510. So if we add that $510 to this number, so 1534 plus 510 would give me 2044. So 2044. So Again, this to me is probably the best case scenario, right? Paid the home off in 30 years. I've got $2,044 available to me. What does this look like? Okay, so we're talking 80,000, 81,000 in tax-free income and about 694,000, putting here 81K, and we're talking 694. So again, going just high level, going back through these two scenarios. I've paid off my 15-year mortgage in 15 years. I've gotten that money that I'm no longer paying for that 15-year mortgage. I've got it compounded. It equates to about 75,000 in income over that 15-year period. So from age 45 to 60, that'd be about 75,000 in income, about 645 in cash value. Who's upset about that? Like, that's pretty awesome. Or I can continue paying the 30-year mortgage, but pay it off in 15 years by adding an additional dollar amount. So if I just take that income that or the mortgage payment from year 15 to year 60, that equates to about 60,000 in income and about 512,000 in cash value, versus adding that additional $510 a month that I was adding into my mortgage along with that mortgage payment. What does that look like? 81,000 and 694. But let's talk about, what if we just simply allowed the 30-year mortgage to be the 30-year mortgage? What would happen? So the first place I want to start is the difference between the original mortgage payment of 1534 and the 15-year mortgage payment of 1839 or 1899. And that math difference, as we just mentioned, was $335 a month. So what I am saying is, if we just allow, so from age 30 till age 60, if we just allowed the 335, $335 a month, not a lot, right? It's the difference between, hey, if I was going to have a 15-year mortgage, this is the dollar amount that I would use. So 335 is not a lot. And if you really want to peel the layers back on this, maybe we start out at 335, but it could increase throughout the years as promotions and bonuses occur. But we're not even taking that into consideration. If we just put away $335 away for the next 30 years, what does that look like at age 60? Okay. So we're talking a vehicle that is producing 65,000 in income and about 637 in cash value. Again, 65,000 in income, 634 in cash value. Now, one other caveat to this though is, remember that $510 a month? So if that $510 a month is available, then in truth, the money that I'm able to put away inside this vehicle isn't 335. 335 is the difference between the 15-year mortgage and the 30-year mortgage payments. If you remember, they had already committed to adding an additional $510 in that 30-year mortgage to be able to pay it off in 15 years. So what if we just simply took the $510 that they were already committed to paying, just simply take the 510 and put it in this vehicle? What does that math look like? So we're talking $99,000 a year in income plus a cash value of $969,000. Again, $99,000 in income, cash value of $969. So let's talk about it. 99K and 969K. I get it. That 15-year mortgage saved us $212,000. That 30-year payoff in 15 saved us $187,000. And I get it. The 30-year mortgage cost us $332,000 in interest. I get it. I don't want to give the bank more money than they deserve either. But when I'm 60 years old and it's time for me to retire, what do I care about? What I care about is my ability to be able to sustain my lifestyle from the time that I retire to the time that I'm no longer here. Which one of these would allow me to sustain that lifestyle is the question. And I think there's a viable argument to make. This is not a bad income. $75,000 with cash value of 645K. Nothing wrong with that. I don't necessarily like the 60,000, but comparatively, 75 compared to 81, I'm not mad about either one of those. But if I would have just allowed this vehicle to do what it needs to do, if I would have just simply paid myself first, focus on a vehicle where I can put my money away and allow it to work for me, that's $99,000 tax free for the rest of my life. You paid your home off, and you're almost a millionaire, and you've got almost a six-figure income for the rest of your life. We are conditioned to believe that it is okay to pillage our retirement account to be able to save our home, but no one thinks about how to leverage our home to be able to produce income. We've got these three vehicles, and these three vehicles are all designed to build wealth and income for us. If we could learn how to leverage our home a little bit better, meaning versus paying off the home, can we leverage this home a little bit better to be able to build income? And if we put our money in the right place, it can do some special things for us. The other piece that makes this conversation important is the idea behind compound cycles. Why does any of this matter? It's because I only have so many compound cycles in my lifetime. I'm 30 years old, and I've been taught by the Dave Ramsey community that from baby step one to whatever the last baby step is, the objective is to pay off my home, become debt free so that I can focus on generating wealth. Well, if it takes me 15 years to be able to start generating that wealth, how many compound cycles did I lose in the process? What is a compound cycle, though? A compound cycle is the amount of time it takes for your money to double. So if I am waiting 15 years before I allow my money to start doubling, how much time would it take for me to be able to produce enough income or produce enough wealth to generate the income to satisfy or replace what it is I currently make? The compound cycles are very, very important here. Ultimately saying the sooner or the earlier you can get your money working for you, the earlier you can put yourself in a position to potentially retire early or to be able to leverage that income to still pay off your home if you wanted to. How about this? This 969,000. If let's say the home wasn't paid off. Let's say I put this $510,000 away, and I wasn't even attempting to pay off the home. I'd taken a second position HELOC. I did a whole bunch of other things. So I still had a mortgage by the time I was 60 years old. You're telling me I can't leverage a portion of this dollar amount to pay off a $275,000 home? So even if I didn't pay the mortgage off, let's say I refied and the clock restarted, and I refied because mortgage rates ended up dropping. So instead of the 15 whatever I was paying, I dropped it down to something less. Still, I never paid off the home. You're telling me after putting away this this $510 a month, I couldn't leverage some portion of that 969 instead of a properly designed secure compound interest account to still pay off my home? And again, it's all about the shift in thought process.